Hello, I apologize for having to take a video of the video that I recorded, but for some reason it will not download to my computer, so this is the best I can do. But I hope you enjoy the presentation nonetheless. Hello, my name is Peyton Fuller. I just wanted to preface this video by apologizing for any background noise that can be heard throughout the course of the video, but also for any interruptions in my speech, like the sound or the visual aid interrupted somehow. My computer is not cooperating with the software that I'm using, and I've had to record this multiple times. So just forgive me if there are any complications. But I want to start off my presentation by asking, do you know about communication in France? I'm sure you do, but let me tell you anyway. So my presentation is going to be on interpersonal communication in France and kind of communication and how culture impacts that directly. So I will start off by giving some advice for travelers. During my research, I stumbled upon some helpful tips that would help anybody traveling to France. I want to start this list off by giving a very basic piece of advice that I think is valuable to anybody traveling to any country, not just France, anybody traveling to the United States, just any travelers in general. And it's very important to learn basic words or phrases of the language that is spoken in whatever country or region you are traveling to. Like I said, I would advise this for any place you travel, but especially France. I say this because it is what I'm doing this presentation on, but it's such a tourist hub, and there are a lot of historic sites, and there is a big focus on history in their culture. There's also a big focus and emphasis on formality. You will hear me repeat that multiple times, especially during this advice section, but there is such an emphasis on formality and precision and directness. And so I just advise that you learn basic words or phrases. It is a very minute thing to do, but it is very impactful. Instead of being that person that is using Google Translate to say good morning, be that person that knows that phrase anyway. Just learn polite phrases. Bonjour, maybe more than just bonjour, but hey, it counts. Number two, my second piece of advice is to dress formally. So like I said, French culture emphasizes formality. I would advise to dress in business casual wherever you go, whether this is traveling to a nice restaurant or traveling to a cafe down the road, or just being seen out in public. I would advise to dress in business casual, even business, depending on the type of place you're traveling to. But like I said, formality and kind of, I'm so sorry, it stopped recording. I don't know where I left off, but I believe it was just explaining that the French dress nicer, even to just travel to a quick trip down the road. And so unless you want to stick out like a sore thumb, I would dress in a more sophisticated manner. So the next piece of advice is to not attempt small talk. Like I previously mentioned, French people are very formal, and this obviously goes from their fashion to their language, to their body language, how they speak, any forms of communication. People from France are very formal. They are direct, and they are doing things for a purpose. Do not expect the same customer service or Southern hospitality, or even I'd go so far as say welcomeness and comfort that you see daily here. Of course, in Louisiana, but in the United States in general, I would say we are very hospitable people. And not to say that the French aren't, but there is a different way of holding yourself when you live in France. And so it is not often for them to make small talk, especially not with tourists. So the next point that I want to make is not so much, it's kind of advice, but it's mainly a sort of warning or like just heads up if you are traveling to France. Protests are common. The French are generally very patriotic, but there is also a high level of individualism, and they are not afraid to speak their mind. So the things that they're passionate about, they often protest against things that do not match up with that. I'm so sorry the audio cut out there. Where was I? Protests are common. Like I said, French are very patriotic, but their individualistic views drive them to be very passionate about things that they're interested in. And there is a lot of political pressure in their society, so that leads to protests. If you're traveling there, I guarantee you'll see 2 to 3 to 4, however many. And the fifth and final tip, well, I guess this one is also a warning, but is that the French love to debate. Engaging in these debates are often considered an outlet to express opinions and personal ideals. Like I said, they are very passionate, and political ideals are, they drive conversation in France, and they very much drive the culture around them. And so the French often like to friendly debate these ideals. These are not unfriendly debates, and they're usually they're in public, but they're nothing as formal as like a formal political debate, but they are still very concise and intellectually driven. That concludes my advice for travelers that are looking into going to France. Next, I will be talking briefly. I'm so sorry it cut out again. I am going to be talking about the 7 aspects of culture that are defined by, forgive me if I mispronounce this, but Hofstede and Hall. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to be discussing these 7 aspects of culture as defined by Hofstede and Hall. Forgive me if I mispronounced that. But starting off with individualistic. So to be classified as individualistic, this country as a whole, the citizens within it, puts the interest of oneself and their immediate family first before all else. For reference, America is more individualistic, but some states or particular populations and regions are more collectivistic. And this just means that the culture's core is based on valuing the needs of a group or community over the individual itself. You can see this in a lot of politics or social norms, but this also relates to specifically the French's formality and directiveness and how they communicate in their culture. Specifically, the French believe that everyone should do their own thing and express their opinions honestly and straightforwardly. Okay, I'm pretty sure the last 2 slides got cut, but I think we were here. So next is long versus short-term orientation. And what this boils down to is a futuristic point of view versus a historical point of view. This is meaning that short-term orientation cultures usually fosters virtues that are related to both past and present, whereas long-term orientation cultures typically foster virtues that are directed towards the future. Now, France is considered or is classified as a long-term oriented culture. We know that there's a lot of history in France, and their communications and culture are greatly impacted by their history. And on my slide, I said therefore, they are long-term oriented, but I meant, however, they are long-term oriented. However, I also read a source that deemed France as short-term oriented because of their importance and emphasis on history. However, it is collectively pretty much decided that France is a more long-term oriented society. Next, the next, it keeps cutting out. The next aspect of culture would be power distance. So all I have here is that France is a country that values aristocracy, meaning those that are higher up in the aristocracy have more wealth and basically have more power in the society. All this means is that there is a class system present in France, and that power is highly centralized in France, and the power is generally placed on the wealthier of the population. The next aspect is uncertainty avoidance. So uncertainty avoidance refers to a culture or society's tolerance of unpredictable situations. France is classified as and is known to have a high uncertainty avoidance. This is directly due to patriotism, formality in their culture, and historical influences. And all of these things collectively influence the culture and the communication within the culture of France. France is at the higher end of the scale, but typically scores a medium regarding avoiding unpredictable situations. I think we all know that there have been terrorist attacks in France, and like I mentioned, the protests that frequently happen in France, and because of this, I believe that that is why France typically scores a medium in regarding to unpredictable situations. However, they score high in other aspects that fall under the uncertainty avoidance. So they have a higher uncertainty avoidance. Next is indulgence versus restraint and how that looks in their society. So indulgence cultures allow a relatively free gratification of like the basic natural human desires, and this relates to eating, having fun and enjoying life per se, and I mean, whereas restraint culture puts control the gratification of needs and regulate people's gratification. Based on this, France is very much in the middle. For reference, the United States is very much an indulgent culture, whereas examples of restraint culture would be Russia or China, Japan, South Korea, where these cultures place a lot of control in societal and cultural norms that relate to indulgence and restraining that natural desire. And the final aspect of France's culture, as defined by Hofstede and Hall, would be masculine versus